Okay, we're on page 49 in your journal. We're talking about using map scale. So we talked in class about how when you had toys as a little kid, they were like, let's say a school bus or a tractor or a truck. They were the large thing in real life was scaled down to a smaller item that you could hold in your hands but looked like the item in real life. So a map is similar to that. We're taking the real life land and we're scaling it down into something that will fit on a map, on a piece of paper, so that we can read it. So when you have a map, they're going to give you a map scale. All right, so this right here is your map scale, and it's also a ratio. Okay, so it's also a ratio. So when on the map, 1 inch equals to 50 miles on the real land. So this is going to be your map distance to your actual real life distance on the land. So when you have a map scale, again, we're going to set up a proportion. All right, the map scale is your first ratio. So when it says what is the real life distance between Champaign and Bloomington, we're going to find Champaign and Bloomington, and we're going to use a ruler. So if you don't have a ruler, I would suggest, I don't really have a suggestion, honestly. You're going to have to just find a ruler somewhere. If you're in class, I'm giving you this purple sheet that has inches on one side and centimeters on the other side. So we talked right now, or in class, about when you have 1 inch, this is kind of like a number line. All right, so if you counted each space, there's 8 spaces, so it was counting by eighths. So we thought, well, eighths is a little bit much to label. So we took, that's 1/8, 2/8, and we simplified it down to 1/4. And then that's 3/8, 4/8. We simplified it down to 1/2. And then 5/8, 6/8, we simplified it down to 3/4. So since we're rounding to the nearest 1/4 inch in our journal and on our homework, that's what we're going to practice doing now. So if you'll notice, the longer line right here in between the 1 and the 2, that's going to be 1.5. All right, the 2 lines that aren't quite as long as the half, those are going to be the fourths. So you've got 1/4, 2/4, which is 1/2, and then you've got 3/4. So if we're counting by fourths, it would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 1 whole. 1 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, 2 whole inches. So when we're measuring, we want to make sure when we're measuring, we want to put, I went ahead and folded mine like this so I could get it right on the edge. I want that right here. I'm going to try to get it right over the camera so you can see it. I want this right here, right in the middle of that dot right here. So I'm going to have to keep repositioning. So if you have a ruler, or even like a tape measure would work if you're at home. So this right here, if in the middle of this dot right here, if I go straight down, it would be about right here. So I think that that's a little closer to 1 than it is to 3/4. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put 1 inch right here. That's what I measured. My first ratio is my scale. So 1 inch to 50 miles. Now this one's super easy. It was only 1 inch on the map when I measured. So I could cross multiply and divide, but since this is the same, this is going to be the same. All right, so what is the real life distance between Champaign and Bloomington? It's going to be 50 miles. Now this is an approximate, so it's not exactly, because we're rounding to the nearest 1/4 inch. Same thing on your homework. It's not going to be exactly. So what is the real life distance between Carbondale and Springfield? So we're going to put our scale right here. Since we have inches over miles, we're going to put inches over miles here. They want the real life distance, which would be in miles, so they're going to want this. So we need to measure to get this. So Carbondale to Springfield. All right, so a little review real quick. We've talked about this many times. 1/4 is going to be 1 out of 4 quarters is going to be 25 cents. Okay, so then we've got 1/2, that's 2/4. 1/2 of $1 is 50 cents. And then we've got 3/4, 3 out of 4 quarters is 75 cents. So when we measure, we're going to convert to decimals so that we can cross multiply and divide a little bit easier. So let's go from Carbondale to Springfield. So we've got Carbondale to Springfield. Okay. So Carbondale to Springfield. If you're trying to measure on page 49, go to page 59. It's the same map, and it might be a little easier without that crease in your page. So I'm going to go right in the middle, and so it is right after 2 3/4. So since it's 2 3/4, I'm going to put 2.75. And then I'm going to cross multiply and divide, but I'm not going to divide by 1 because it doesn't do anything, okay? So remember, in 5th grade, we've talked about it this year too, about hanging your 0 off. When you're multiplying by something that has 0, you can hang it off and kind of ignore it for a minute before dropping it into your answer. So we're going to hang it off and kind of pretend like it's not there. All right, so we're going to do our multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. Then we've got 35 plus 2 is 37. Then we've got 10 plus 3 is 13. We're going to drop this down into our answer. And then we have 1, 2 places after the decimal and none here. So we're going to have 2 places after the decimal here. So that's going to be 137. Now I'm going to not write the 0 because I don't need it. If you wrote it, it would be totally fine and it would be completely right. Now on your homework, be really careful because it adds something on your homework. It says round to the nearest mile. Okay, so round to the nearest mile, which means this would become 138. So there's a little line on your homework up here. You can write the exact answer here, that's fine, but on the line, you're going to write 138 miles because it asks you to round it to the nearest mile. It doesn't on our notes. So number 3, okay, let's write our scale. It's going to be the same on this map. It's asking what is the real life distance, so we know that we're finding miles, between Aurora and Chicago. So we've got Chicago and Aurora. They're pretty close. Looks like it's probably going to be less than 1. So Aurora to Chicago. So again, if you'll get right over it, it's easier to see if it's right in the middle. Okay, so this looks like it is the right in the middle of this dot is about right here, which is really close to 3/4. So remember 3/4 was 75 cents. So we've got 75/100ths of an inch. So if we cross multiply, we're again going to hang that 0 off. And we're going to put it in our answer and then forget about it. 35 plus 2 is 37. 5 times 0 is 0. Plus 3 is going to be 3. We're going to put our decimal 1, 2. None here, so 1, 2. So you get 37.5. Now again, I'm going to drop that 0. You do not have to. You can leave the 0 there. But on your homework, remember there's a line here and it's saying go ahead and round that to the nearest mile. So you would put 38 miles on the line. So pause it right here and try to do the next one on your own. And then you can check it. Okay, Joliet and Quincy. So that's going to be here and here. So we're going to measure, make sure put it right in the middle of the dot. And it's really close to 4. It's closer to 4 than it is to 4 1/4. So we're going to put 4 right here. We're going to cross multiply, and we're going to get 200 miles.